Just ring the bell and kick ass.
The following podcast is scheduled for one topic with a 20-minute time limit.
All right, Steve. So on this episode, we're going to talk about the state of AEW.
I have so many thoughts, as you know, my friend. Anything I share here is not a "it sucks" take. It's an "hey, I love it, and I would love it to be even stronger."
Welcome to the official Warrior Wrestling Podcast with your hosts, Warrior Wrestling President Steve Tortorello and Warrior Digital Wizard Henry Jasper.
I want it to do well. I like it. It's my favorite flavor of ice cream that I've enjoyed eating via wrestling over the last several years. I would love to be involved with it somehow. I think there's ways that Warrior can even add value in being affiliated with it, and I've shared that with Tony and a few other people that I've talked to no effect, right? It's not really gone anywhere or developed anywhere. So all that to say, I like it. I want it to be successful. No, not at all. Not at all. But all of that to say, it's anything I share here is not a "it sucks" take. It's an "hey, I love it, and I would love it to be even stronger," right? Like a coach who tells a player how they can improve their swing. I want it to be even better, and again, maybe I'm the fan in the cheap seats telling the pro how to improve their swing. But here's where I think AEW is. I think it's in the wilderness right now. As you and I have talked about, it started so strong. It started as the alternative to WWE, where they were correcting for so many of WWE's mistakes. And you had this incredible mix of 4 or 5 different people or angles on what wrestling could be, woven together like a beautiful quilt, right? You had the New Japan main event style of Kenny Omega. You had the modern indie super banger style of the Bucks. You had the old dusty NWA Jim Crockett style of Cody. You had Tony's fandom of WCW. And Jericho's brilliance at getting things over it and developing things and naming things. And all of these different great ingredients went into the soup. And sure, like that first fall of 19, they had the soup was a little bit too weird, and Tony had to take control and be the main chef of the soup, as he always says, starting in January of 20. But really in 19, 20, and 21, there was a clear vision, a clear style, a clear direction, a clear plan for how characters would evolve and grow. And as people have pointed out online on Twitter, all of that really led to Full Gear 2021, right? When Hangman finally beats Kenny. The first 3 years of the 2 years of that company led to that moment. And then after that, I saw somebody put a great tweet out. They were like a limited prestige TV series that at the very end of its episodes found out it was going to become a daily soap opera, and then had to continue to churn out content after the brilliant thing they'd laid out was over. And there have been times in that soap opera era where they've done really well. It's been really cool. And there have been times in this soap opera era where it has just gone off the rails and they've had to pull it back, and they figure that out usually. So number one, I think they've gone past their original plan. Number two, I think they have relied on far too many, at least as of late, already established acts to be on their shows. I mean, what is AEW right now? It is Ric Flair and Sting past their primes on TV. It is Christian Cage using the name Christian Cage as a heel. It is goofy backstage skits. It is Jeff Jarrett matches full of schmozzy stuff and a couple of modern bangers thrown in. It's TNA 2010, everybody.
I was going to say,
it's TNA, bro. It's TNA. I mean, it's TNA. And they gave away Kenny versus MJF on 3 days notice on a collision because we have to do this streak. Like it has hit a period of being in the wilderness. Not that it's dead or gone, whatever. It's just in the wilderness right now. And I think part of that is, as you and I have talked about, nobody has an editor, right? The WWE mistake for years was they overscripted everybody. They forced people to do things that were unnatural, and it was really corny and dumb. AEW came along and they're like, everybody could just kind of be themselves and do what they want. And then what you get is everybody being themselves to the nth degree without someone editing and shaping it. And I'm talking performers, as you and I talked about, right? Like Adam Copeland, Edge, love him. He just had a couple weeks ago, like a 10-minute sit-down interview with Renee where it's like, Edge loves these like long, brooding, reflective character pieces, and they can be effective, not for 10 minutes, right? And like everybody's doing the thing that they do to the extreme without someone editing and directing it. Even Tony Khan, I would say, right? Like now, like he's just throwing out matches at midnight that I would hate to be the graphic designer for AEW, right? That Tony Khan wakes you up like Vince McMahon used to wake people up at the two in the morning. God damn it, pal, why aren't you ready to work? I feel like AEW is or the same way with Tony Khan being like, God damn it, pal, put up this new match graphic I just thought of, right? So like Tony's just throwing stuff at the wall on very little notice based on this and that and the other thing. And it's like somebody needs to be editing Tony. Tony needs somebody who he trusts who can go, dude, we've got to reshuffle a little bit, or we've got to relook at some of this stuff. So I think AEW, you and I talked offline about the sophomore slump, right? Albums, musical artists, you have your whole life to write the first one and then a year to write the second one. And that's why the second one usually struggles. Tony and all of the creative minds in AEW had their whole lives and careers to map out the first 2 years of AEW, how it was going to be an alternative, how it was going to be different. And then now they're not even in a sophomore slump because they never stopped recording. They just had to be recording new music every week for forever. I feel like they just need to, you can't do this in the TV economy. Take a month off. Take a month off, gather all of your lieutenants, go on retreat in one of the Khan palaces, somewhere on the yacht or whatever, and just spend a month thinking about what this thing can and should be. Because right now, day to day, it has become TNA 2010. And it doesn't feel like it's a cohesive product. And I say all of this out of love because I love this flavor. I want to enjoy this flavor of ice cream forever. But right now it's like, if I love, mint chocolate chip, I'm getting served mint chocolate chip, but it's like somebody left it out of the freezer too long and like refroze it and it's kind of frozen with water shards in it. Like, yeah, it's mint chocolate chip, but it's not what mint chocolate chip has been and can be. And I just want to get back to the great mint chocolate chip.
Sometimes your metaphors are tactile. It's like
you can taste it.
Yeah, like I've had the experience of eating that ice cream, and you're right. Like it is subpar mint chocolate chip, but like I'm still eating it.
Yes,
it feels more chaotic because I totally, it resonates. The like we ran out of the initial plan that resonates. The other problem is their own success, I think, is starting to catch up with them, and they've bitten off a lot. They have 3 shows. They got this deal coming for the streaming and all that. Like, there's so much there. They've tried a million other things. They've tried 2 reality shows. They've tried all this stuff. And the video game is like, okay. You know what I mean? It's like that editor thing is cool. Like, that idea to me is like, yeah, it sounds like it. But playing devil's advocate to that idea and coming at it from a different perspective, do I think that the stories are going to an extreme? Yes, but I wonder if that's a growth phase for them as a brand that they have to do. Maybe they have to go, if we went nuts and we did all the ideas that we thought were going to be good, and yeah, they have the roster where like pretty much anything they're going to do is going to get over to a certain degree with most of the audience because they are who they are and people aren't going to think that deeply. But it's interesting to me that maybe they need to go like, all right, now if we dial back, like that's going to be smarter. They're going to be smarter about what works. I don't know. It feels like Tony is a creative genius artist guy who's writing everything he can week by week as quickly as he can. That's what it feels like. Just like, dude, if you had time to slow down or you had some mechanism in place, some form of brakes, the car wouldn't feel so, it doesn't feel out of control. It feels like every once in a while we lose a little traction. Now, again, I haven't been watching it, but when I do check in, what it's providing for me is mint chocolate chip ice cream when I want mint chocolate chip ice cream, and it feels good. And there's no context about how goofy it is. It's just an escape for a minute. And so in that way, it is working for me personally. But
agreed.
Overall, maybe breaks are necessary.
Well, so two notes. So one on your Tony Khan analogy, and one on it works when you watch it. So like, I think it was Trevor Dame as his handle on Twitter. Hobbs wrote an essay for one of the sites, maybe Voices of Wrestling, a while back ahead of All In, where he basically compared Tony Khan to that brilliant kid who writes his paper the night before. And it's like, had you spent the month that it was assigned on it, it could have saved everyone a lot of headache and been even better. And you're smart enough to write it the night before at midnight, and it's still good. Good paper, but like, why didn't you just spend the month we had assigned in class to write the damn paper? And that is what Tony Khan feels like all the time. Like, and Tony Khan's like, I'm going to throw together this card that's amazing. It's like, yeah, but if you just spend the month assigned in class, and to your point about being able to drop in and just enjoy the ice cream. So Kenny Omega and MJF, it's 10 days ago now, or 2 weeks, whatever it's been since that match happened. A week, I don't know. Time is relative. The match itself, bell to bell, was fantastic. Truly, it reminded me so much structurally of the Kenny Omega Okada first match, the one in the Dome in January of 2017. Just the way it was structured, the way it built, the way they did near falls, and we can talk, nerdy inside baseball stuff about wrestling matches later if we want. But it's fantastic. And I kept thinking to myself, God, it's so good and it doesn't matter, right? Like, if you just ask me in a vacuum, do you enjoy this for 25 minutes? Sure. But I would have enjoyed it so much more if there was a story that mattered, not just a week earlier, like, oh, shoot, I'm going to overtake Kenny Stays in a week, so let's just have this match, right? Like, if there were stakes, if there were wins and losses, and if it felt like it mattered, right? Like, when it feels like it matters, it's amazing. 2 points I want to say, and then I'll throw it back your way. Number one, somebody, I just saw this earlier today on Twitter, dug up Tony Khan's original vision for AEW in an interview he did in 2019. And he talked all about being sports-based in the sense that wins and losses matter. A win should make your week and a loss should crush your week, right? Like, it should really, really matter. And going into MJF and into Kenny Omega, I was like, well, there's no way Kenny's winning because nothing in any of their programming says Kenny's going to win the belt. So we know what the finish is. And they had they did all this cool stuff, but it didn't matter because you knew the finish and it didn't feel like anything mattered. Like, we're just going to have a great match and move on Wednesday and no one's going to say anything about it. Guess what happened? We had a great match. We moved on and no one said anything about it. Kenny it wasn't heartbroken and down, and Max wasn't so proud. Like, they had this match on Saturday and then they showed up on Wednesday and Max is walking around with a clipboard looking for the Elite. Right? So it must have just been this past Saturday. Like that's the follow-up. Right? Like, it didn't friggin' matter. And I read the Observer this morning, and Dave gave it 4 3/4, and he said he debated going 4 3/4 and 5. And I, before I even read the Observer, I was like, Dave won't go 5 on this because it doesn't matter. Because it felt like, it's so weird. They did all the same kind of stuff Kenny and Okada did, but it didn't feel like it mattered. It felt like an exhibition as opposed to the culmination of a story. And that is why, like you said, like you're saying earlier, I can turn on the TV and just watch it. Okay. Like, I enjoy what is happening. But wrestling really clicks when it feels like an event and it feels like something's going to happen. One guy's going to win, one guy's going to lose, one girl's going to win, one girl's going to lose. And everything hinges on that. And if it like, again, right. Think about the best examples of this, right? Austin and Rock at WrestleMania 17, Punk and Cena, Money in the Bank, Kenny and Hangman, Full Gear. Like any of the things that have mattered where you're like, wow, we'll never be the same again after this event. Like a real sports game, right? Like, your favorite team is in the playoffs, and if they lose, they're going home, and if they win, they're going to the Super Bowl or the World Series or the NBA Finals or whatever. It matters. Every move, every shift, every substitution. And AEW to me feels like nothing matters anymore. I can watch it at any time and the motion in front of my eyes will entertain me, but nothing matters. There's 10,000 belts, right? Like, nothing matters. And that's what they have lost.
It always felt like they were trying to be the Attitude Era, but not doing it well. And This, I feel like, resembles that Crash TV mechanism that WWE used. It doesn't feel WCW, maybe the stupidity of late WCW, but like the way, oh my God, there's a milk truck. Oh my God, it's like we're doing those spots, but they're not spectacle. They're goofy indie vlog storyline. And I think maybe I get why they're leaning into it. It just feels weird. So maybe that's the most negative thing that I'll say is that I'm like, you have to graduate from that level to your TV show level. Like we all like it because it's our super indie. I get that part. Like Vikingo Commander Penta is on, I think, whatever. Well, it's just on or it's on their next show, whatever. I saw a graphic for Rampage. I think it's Rampage. Okay, cool. That's an awesome indie match. But like, why? Why are these three people in this ring?
Yeah.
And it's like, if you give us that, you give us the best of both worlds. I think this is them stretching their sports entertainer muscle, and they're realizing maybe we're depending too much on a few people and all these old guys to make it feel right.
Yeah.
Because the young guys maybe don't know how to do it right. MJF is carrying like 7 people on the roster right now because they're weaving him in and out of all these storylines because he is it. And like, good on him. He's carrying that weight. Like, he's doing a great job. There's never an MJF segment where I'm like, MJF sucked. That's never going to be a thing. But it's like when it got really goofy with Stone Cold at the end. Like, he could be their Stone Cold. I don't really believe it. The whole I'm everybody's, what does he say? I'm everybody's.
It's your scumbag, yeah.
Yeah, like, I get what they're trying to do with that, and I just don't know if I can trust him yet. Like, I still don't trust him yet. And I don't know if I'm not supposed to trust him yet, or if it just hasn't gotten to that Stone Cold level yet. But, like, he could be their anti-hero Stone Cold guy with all that stuff that he's been building. And instead of the stunner, we get a kangaroo kick. But that's what I mean by maybe it needs to graduate. It needs to grow up. Like, maybe this is the awkward teenage phase. And maybe I need college art student Tony Khan.
Yeah, but yes, but I don't know what's coming next because everything they've showed us is like, aren't you excited? Jericho is back. You know, Big Show's teaming with Jericho. And it's like, the big thing is that we're reviving a tag team from 15 years ago in the other promotion, right? And like Flair and Sting, like everything they're showing us is going backwards. And somebody said this on one of the podcasts or business breakdowns or whatever. No wrestling company has ever thrived on finding old fans. It's always about creating new ones. And it seems like literally, again, we're in the Tony Khan needs an editor category. Tony is just buying all the toys that he liked growing up, as opposed to figuring out what works now and what can work now and why does it work now. And again, like you said, Vikingo Commander Penta, that will be a spectacle. But like, let's build it up. Let's have videos. Let's have promos in Spanish. Let's have it matter. And that's the thing that just, you know, when AEW launched in 2019, every moment mattered, right? Like they would sign an indie worker and the world would buzz about it. And they would, you know, have an episode of Dynamite and everything mattered. And now there's so much and they're so pulled so thin that nothing matters. It's all just, again, we just got Kenny Omega versus MJF in front of 500,000 people on a Saturday night on their B or C show with 3 days of promotion with no storyline besides, I'm going to break the streak. Like, guys, what? Like, please take a month off and figure out who you are and what you stand for and then lean into that, because I'm eating ice shard mint chocolate chip ice cream right now and I'm still going to eat it for a while, but like, I don't know, man. We are at time on this one. You want to break the Warrior discussion into the next one?
Yeah, why don't we just do that as an episode?
Ring the bell, ding, ding, ding.